viewpoint from overseas and host Faraz Darvesh. We have several different topics with us on the table. First, the unfortunate incident of Las Vegas, which has taken lives of many innocent people. We'll discuss, how can we get rid of such tragedies? How could we reduce such tragedies, or how could we eliminate such tragedies from happening in the future? And then we'll discuss the visit of Pakistan's Foreign Minister Khawaja Asif to US, and he has given several talks and he has spoken his heart, and there are different opinions, but I personally believe that he has done a tremendous job in putting up a Pakistan's case before a very tough audience. And then we'll discuss how the civil-military relations are going in Pakistan. We have always witnessed rift between civil-military relations. Recently, as we are recording our show, the Captain Safdar, who's the son-in-law of former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, has been arrested from the airport in Pakistan. We'll see how will that develop and impact the civil-military relations. And in the end, we'll discuss China increases its troop strength and resumes road construction in Doklam, which is a disputed territory between India and China. I have with me Riaz Haq and Ms. Azam. Riaz, let me start with you. Las Vegas. I mean, this is not the first time, and gun control has always been an issue. How do you see this?
Yeah, it's very tragic that this continues. This is an ongoing tragedy. Every year, 30,000 Americans are killed in guns and gun violence. Not in such instant necessarily. A lot of the deaths are ones and twos, and many of them are suicides. But these are all gun-related deaths.
Okay.
But unfortunately, it is very unlikely that there will be any substantial action because they keep talking about the Second Amendment, the right to own guns, and then some of the people that support it say, things like, guns don't kill people, people kill people.
We have seen this.
Yeah, that kind of mantra that you hear from the NRA and supporters.
Right.
So there's very little likelihood. Now, others have actually dealt with it very effectively. The closest example to the U.S. society, we talk about, Americans are different. America is a frontier society. Europeans are not. They've always been more urban than the Americans. But there is another country called Australia, which is actually very similar in character to the United States. They also have a frontier society. There's a gun culture in Australia, just like in the United States. But back in 1996, they had a mass shooting in which 36 people were killed. And that outraged the entire nation. And even though they love their guns, a lot of people own guns there, they decided to act. And they have passed legislation that has reduced gun deaths by 60%.
And how so?
This is from since 1990.
Well, what steps have they taken?
Well, I think they have basically regulated guns. You can't just buy whatever guns you want. There's certainly certain types of guns that people can purchase. They also have much, stronger background checks. And in fact, they also offered to buy back guns from people. And they actually bought like 600,000 guns back from some of the people. So the total number of guns have gone down a lot. The types of guns people own, like the assault rifles, they don't allow the use of the automatic weapons are not allowed, or even semi-automatic, which is, a lot of Americans own these guns.
Right. Ms. What do you say this?
Yeah, actually, this is the way it is. I mean, even in Vietnam, there is a law against the gun and there is no crime on this. So saying this is kind of stupid that people kill people, not gun kill people, People kill people, why they don't take a knife and start killing people? I mean, when they kill when they have some shooting thing, some kind of easy to kill, of course. I mean, that is not a very good argument. But nothing is going to happen. I mean, it is a strong lobby, and you can see it, just like automobile lobby, and
nothing.
There is a question always raised that when the stimulus package was given, $95 billion stimulus package given, where this money all go? In China, $56 billion package was given, but now Chinese are traveling on the high-speed trains. I mean, so in US, these lobbies are very strong.
Okay, Riaz, let me. You've been a critic of Khawaja Asif himself, but how do you see his performance in this recent visit to US?
Yeah, I'm impressed with the way he presented Pakistan's case in Washington, particularly, what I saw in his presentation at the U.S. Institute of Peace, where he was interviewed by Dr. Mueed Yusuf, who's also a Pakistani American. And he actually made a number of very good points in his presentation. But one of the things he said was, he reminded Americans, his audience, that the United States funded, armed, and trained militants to fight the Soviet Union in 1980s as part of the Cold War. And then after they won in Afghanistan,
They left.
They basically just left for Pakistan to deal with the mess that was left. We had all these thousands of fighters who were well trained, these militants, and there was nothing done to try to rehabilitate these people. And now Americans want us to just, finish them off. They want us to end the militancy and take action against everybody, like declare war on all these groups. Right. So he says, we agree that we need to end the militancy. But, we need time and we need support. Yep. So one of the things he said, very interesting, we were just talking about gun control, he said, you have these 30,000 deaths every year by guns, and, how long has it taken for you to do anything about it? You've done nothing so far.
Right.
And you want us, you have political pressure, that's why you don't do it. This is domestic politics that prevents you from doing it. Now you want us to go ahead and take care of these militant groups overnight. That's not going to happen. Now he said, we agree that we need to do it. Now, I think there is generally this is my own opinion, that there is consensus in Pakistan that these militant groups need to be eliminated or contained. Right. But there's no consensus on exactly the best way to do it. That's where the arguments are between the military and the civilian government as to how best to end these kinds of militant groups. Another point he made was that about India. I mean, they keep talking about these groups that are attacking India. He said there are 66 banned armed groups engaged in insurgency all over India.
According to Indian intelligence.
According to Indian data.
Yeah.
And only 4 of those, according to their data, are supposedly linked to Pakistan.
Right.
So, the problem is not just these few groups. India has a much bigger problem. They need to deal with the issues at home to deal with these insurgencies, including the Kashmiri insurgencies.
And Khawaja Asif glorified the ISI, he glorified the Pakistan armed forces. Now, he's been under a lot of pressure and under a lot of criticism from armed forces.
He was wearing a different hat. I mean, when you go out and represent your country, you have to present the position, the narrative of your country, not just your own.
And I hope he gains respect among the armed forces. He gains respect among the ISI.
As long as he doesn't undercut his own arguments.
Well, I think he has given this argument at the larger audience, at the very tough audience.
There's some more things that he said. Like Indian government's data itself shows that there were 36,000 infiltration attempts in occupied Kashmir in 2001. And now their data shows this year there have been only 30. So Pakistan has acted against these groups.
Right.
That is why there's been a dramatic reduction, according to the Indian government's own data, in the number of infiltration attempts that they claim are made from Pakistan. Then he talked about what ex-Defense Secretary of the United States, Chuck Hagel, has said, that India is using Afghanistan as a second front against Pakistan. He mentioned General Petraeus's remarks at RUSI, at the Royal United Institute in London in 2016, where he said that he saw no convincing evidence that Pakistanis are supporting Haqqanis, no direct support he saw. Then he basically, he was asked about Secretary Mattis's statement about giving Pakistan one more chance. One more time. And he said these kinds of statements are offensive. This kind of talk is not acceptable to us. It is not conducive to cooperation between the United States and Pakistan.
And then he made a very fair argument about Afghan government accusing Pakistan for destabilizing Afghanistan, and he gave a very fair argument that the rift between Abdullah and President Ghani, are we responsible for that? Afghan armed forces going and auctioning their weapons and selling those to Afghan Taliban. Are we responsible for that? So you need to, and then he put up an argument that 60% of the Afghanistan is under Taliban control. 40% of Afghanistan.
Why do they need safe havens?
Why would they need safe haven in Pakistan? Is Pakistan responsible for it? So he put up a very fair argument. Ms. Bahal, you see
Yeah,
this?
by all means, kudos to
Khawaja
Asif. I mean, he did a very good job, and in Muid Yusuf's word that he's in Punjabi khula dula person,
Right.
you know, he's a very open
guy.
person, easygoing person, and he just talked for his heart, which he had.
Right.
But there are certain things also we always have to remember it, you know, when we make these arguments.
Will he get all the credit from armed forces though in Pakistan?
Well, okay. I am not.
Because this will be my next topic.
I am not going to read somebody military's mindset because that what they see it and how they see it. But it seems that there is no statement. There is no any kind of.
So no news is a good news.
Yeah, nobody came out from military that saying that
Okay.
no, this is because maybe you have heard. General Asif Ghafoor's long press conference, but he never said anything. So I say that the answer is yes. Now the thing is that what we always have to remember it that when in 1980s, you know, Americans they wanted Pakistan to work with the Afghan nationalists under the umbrella of Zahir Shah, but it's General Ziaullah who insisted and convinced then that we will use these Muslim militants, you know, so that because he wanted to use them in Pakistan as well. Second thing, what happens the same day that USIP, you know, that they have this
United States Institute of
Peace. They had it at around 9:15.
They had a talk around
9:15 or something. And around 8 a.m., there is a talk with the National Security Advisor to President Trump, Foreign Minister of Pakistan. They were going to. But around 8:20, USIP got a call that Foreign Minister is ready there. So the talk went very bad, just 10 minutes, and there is nothing, and it seems that it is only one-sided. They just told what they think, and they let him go. So, and if you see it in the beginning of the talk, Khawaja Asif kind of mentioned also when he was asked about by Dr. Muid Yusuf about his meeting with the foreign secretary, he said that yes, it was very good. But when he asked what happened today, he said he will not say it is good. You know, so he said this thing that
he said it didn't go back.
It is not very good. So we have to keep these things in mind, and of course, relation between US and Pakistan are not going to be very smooth, and all these talks going on that they are coming. They will be pressuring US.
Who's they?
US, of course. Okay. I mean, and they are. When I say they, I mean, of course, there is nobody else. They are even saying that NATO is with us to isolate Pakistan. You know, they give the diplomatic isolation and all those things like that. But coming days are not, I don't see anything coming very good. Their relation with India would be very good because as we know, US kind of opened their policies in the region.
Yeah, I think there have been a number of reports that there are significant differences between Secretary Tillerson and General McMaster. In fact, there was even a report I saw where they have had very, bitter disputes. They have actually raged against each other, been very angry with each other.
General McMaster and
Secretary Tillerson. Now, Tillerson wants to work with Pakistan, wants to figure out a way. He actually, if you hear his statements he made after meeting with Khawaja Asif, he said, we see Pakistan as a reliable partner, and we see Pakistan as extraordinarily important partnership to try and deal with our issues in Afghanistan and the regional stability. And then you hear about this meeting with McMaster. So I think this reminds me of the time when Obama became president, and he said he sent two of his closest people. He sent his CIA chief, and he said General Lute, to Pakistan. In fact, they went to Dubai and they met with General Kiani there. He was the chief of staff at the time, and they basically read him what they call the Riot Act. He said, "Do this or else." So there's an interesting story about that meeting that is in this book by David Sanger. He wrote a book about U.S.-Pakistan relations. And he said these two people sat there in front of Kiani. Kiani is a chain smoker. So while they were threatening him, he just kept, smoking and blowing smoke in their faces. And when they came back to the United States, their suits were so, filled with tobacco smoke that they had to go straight to a dry cleaners who, after they landed in the United States, they go get it cleaned up. So this has backfired before. Now, and what I'm seeing is, I think one of the things I see is that this lady by the name of Lisa Curtis, who is McMaster's advisor, used to work with Hussein Haqqani. And Hussein Haqqani and Lisa Curtis actually put out a paper.
Which we've seen a talk of.
Yeah, so Hussein Haqqani has somehow convinced, McMaster, that the way to deal with Pakistan is to be really tough, and that they will yield the pressure.
And why is Hussein Haqqani doing this?
Unfortunately, he's always bin advocating this kind of an approach.
But why? I mean, what is he?
Because it doesn't make sense. I think it's just going to backfire. Okay. But I think he probably has. I think he has some kind of a real spite against Pakistan. He's. This is personal.
So agitated.
He's very angry, I think, with Pakistan, and he wants to somehow, settle scores. Well,
he has had problem with individuals in Pakistan, not as a state of Pakistan.
Problem. If you read his recent statements and recent interviews, there was just one after Trump announced his gun strategy. It was really bad. The one in which he and a former U.S. official, a lady, were in an interview on NPR,
and I saw that
PBS, News Hour, and he was being totally irrational. It was as though he has an axe to grind in this whole situation, while the other lady was being a rational analyst.
Yep.
Not just polite, but rational.
Right.
Yeah, one comment about between Pentagon and the State Department. From George W. Bush, this has started. That Pentagon was kind of close to the White House and they are making policies. And you remember the Secretary of State during George Bush time, General Colin Powell, he was virtually talking all night with President Bush, and he thinks he convinced him. And in the morning when he comes, George Bush gave other statement after talking to Prime Vice President Dick Cheney or the Defense Minister Rumsfeld or somebody else. So this is happening in U.S. This time, unfortunately, these three generals are making all the policies here. And you can see it that President Trump's speech has no talk of talk. This only coercive policies he discussed. And this is the first time in America. And a lot of people, a lot of scholars in America, who are experts in foreign policies, they are kind of finding out the new laws of international relations now. I mean, it is very different. It's a new order now.
Let me just point out what's happening with Trump. This morning, he sent out a whole bunch of tweets attacking the foreign policy, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Bob Corker, and Bob Corker responded to the tweet, the attack, by saying that the White House has become an adult care center, like a child care center, where adults are behaving like children, and somebody is not paying attention to what this child is doing. So it was interesting how he is being perceived. If that is the way he wants to go, and he wants to empower his generals to use a coercive force, it's not going to work. I mean, we know that this has not worked in the past, so it is unlikely to work. I mean, they think that they can basically use force against multiple. I mean, look at what they're doing with Iran. with Iran policy, with North Korea policy. It's force everywhere.
Right.
It's not going to work.
In the interest of time, let me switch to the next topic.
Just one sentence I want to say. Somebody said very good thing. War is too serious business to be run by the generals.
So
that is it.
So,
and that is happening in United
So
States.
let me switch gears and let's go discuss civil and military relations in Pakistan. How do you see those going?
Are you asking me? Or
I'm asking you.
Yeah, okay. No, actually, civil-military relations are always problem everywhere in the world, and you can see that. But in Pakistan, yes, you know that. The way things are moving, it's, from my point of view, there are two governments running. That one is the civil government, one is the military government. Military government, actually, all the foreign policy, this part of the foreign policy is all run by the military.
Which part? You mean the
Afghanistan.
Okay.
The general, the ISI chief are going to talk to the President Karzai. Now he's going to Iran, you know. Although Prime Minister today in the interview, he's trying to defend that. Prime Minister is saying that, yeah, generals should be talking to each other so that they know how military, but question was not that he's talking to generals. He could still do it. Still these delegations should be led by the civilian foreign minister or defense minister.
So it's not going well.
It is not, I don't see it's going well.
Riyadh, is the civil military relations going well in Pakistan?
Yeah, I think one of the unfortunate facts about Pakistan is that whenever there is any action against any civilians regarding their corrupt activities, such as what's happening against Nawaz Sharif, or what's happening earlier with Zardari, they start crying civil-military relations. They
And
start
democracy is in danger.
And democracy is in danger.
Yeah.
And you know their past. I mean, right now they're trying to intimidate Nawaz Sharif and his party, are trying to intimidate the judiciary as well as the military.
And they're openly saying that.
Yeah. They're going around, I mean, they're using street power. They're bringing people out in large numbers. And at the same time, they just elected Nawaz Sharif. After he was disqualified to be prime minister, they elected him as the
his speech, his re-election speech was totally focused towards the army.
Yeah. So I think when you do this kinds of activities, how do you expect good relations? The problem is that if it was left to Nawaz Sharif and he was allowed to intimidate the judiciary, what would happen is what happened back in 1997 when the PMLN thugs, goons, basically attacked judges, and the Chief Justice had to run for his life.
Right.
I mean, that's the situation. If the military was not standing by, they would do this kind of stuff. The only protection that the judiciary has from these kinds of thugs is the military.
Yeah, actually, as far as this thing is going on, that character, what is army's character? They were toppling the government, they were taking over power all the time. Yeah, it is very bad they attack on the judiciary, but like other parties, and there are now evidences that PTV was attacked. There are some intelligence people were spotted on that. So you cannot say that only one is doing that. This is going on in that country all the time, and that doesn't justify what Nawaz Sharif is doing. I agree on that he says that. But problem is that problem is on both sides.
His own brother is warning him, don't do it.
Right.
Don't listen to these guys who are trying to mislead you for their own benefit, for their own advantage.
So let me shift gear. Let's go to Riyadh. Let me begin with you. The China increases troop strength and resume road construction in Doklam, which is a disputed territory between India and China. How do you see this?
It's not been even a month when we saw the Indians, thumping their chest, the Indian government, Modi and his people, saying how they have made China blink by, in fact, what they did was they withdrew their forces, the Indian forces, without any formal commitment by the Chinese. And look, what's happening right now is the Chinese are back. They're in fact back in larger numbers. They've increased their troop strength, and they're essentially resumed that.
So it's not going towards any resolution.
Yeah, actually, the thing is that the Chinese are coming out into the Chambi Valley, which is inside Yotung, which is China's control. They did not come to Doklam, but Indians say that they are slowly, gradually increasing the forces to get there eventually, So that was the thing. And coming days only would tell that what would happen. China really going to go back to that or not? Okay, China has this thing that they surprise the world. I mean, you saw in the case of Korean War, you saw in the case of 1969 standoff on the Suri River with Russia. You see it it happened in the Strait of Taiwan incident 1996. That is the time when China was kind of first time realized that we have to have more power, and after that they are preparing for that. That would not happen. So of course India has to be very careful, and that is the reason India is worried about it, that since China is kind of widening the Kacha road, like a unplated road, into and widening it. So that's why India is worried about. But how far it will go, you and I don't know.
Riyaz, last comments.
Yeah, I think the Chinese are increasing their troop strength. They've brought the construction equipment back, the bigger equipment. I think they're going to pave it, and they're going to basically remain there.
That is understandable.
Audience, thank you for watching Viewpoint from Overseas. We'll be back next week with more topics.